Right. Welcome to this class on shifting your energy around money. And I would like to start with a couple of jokes around money since we're all taking it way too seriously. This one I really like. My wife's credit card got stolen the other day, but I haven't bothered reporting it because because the thief spends much less money than my wife does. One more joke. Money isn't everything, but it definitely keeps you in touch with your children. I like that one too. Those are good. Those are good. All right, so let's get rolling. Thank you all so much for being here, whether you're here live or by recording. If you're new to meditation school and it is your first time here, so good to have you. I've got my very good friend Olivia Ray assisting me tonight. I can unmute you so you can say hi. Oh, you can unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hey, Olivia. I don't know why.
Hey.
Whenever I see your name, I feel like you should have a Southern accent, but you don't.
Hi. No, that was pretty bad. Sorry.
Hey,
I tried.
Olivia Ray. Great to
Hi.
have you here. Hey.
Okay, I'm gonna stop.
All right. And so I wanted to teach this class because everyone has been freaking out about money. Not everyone, but this is a really intense time on the planet for a lot of people. Uh, a quarter of America could lose their jobs or more, and I'm sure it's similar in a lot of other places in the world. And so, if there is a reality of maybe a recession or a depression, and just a lot of shifting and moving going around in the financial world for many people, and I thought it would be important for us to sit and look at it, find some neutrality, and not just get lost in the anxiety of it. Just like I think a lot of people in the world are getting lost in the anxiety of the virus and in the fear of it. The same can happen around our relationship to money. And so, one of the most important things, I think, when it comes to relating with money, especially at a time like this, is to find some neutrality, to get a little distance and find some neutrality. So, that's why I like to joke about it so much. It just gives us a little space from taking it so seriously all the time. And in tonight's class, I wanted to go over kind of the 7 ways that we relate to money. I can do an hour or 2 hour long meditation on each one of these ways. I could probably do a whole 7-week course on each one of these, but I just want to lightly introduce them tonight, and we'll go into meditation and just touch on each of them. But before we do that, if you're here live, I would love for you to just to write in the chat box how you're feeling with your relationship in regards to money right now. How does it make you feel when you think about it? Does it create anxiety or stress? Are you cool with it? Are you all good? Do you can't find enough places to spend it? You just need more help knowing where to spend it. Whatever it is, of just avoiding it. Yeah. And as you guys just type and share, please do share, by the way. Sharing helps us release shaming. And when we release feeling shame or guilt, that's usually when we open up. So, yeah, you worried about people losing their livelihoods. I've shared this book with my group once before, but I really love this book. It is called The Soul of Money. David, how could money have a soul? I don't know. Ask Lynn Twist, who wrote it. She's wonderful. It's a really nice book. Give you a little bit of a different perspective. Yeah, yeah. When you went down to $0, unemployment, worry about people losing their jobs. Money is not everything. Correct. Yeah. Scared of it, feel embarrassed that you're not better with it sometimes. I've coached a lot of people who, even if they make like a lot of money in their work, sometimes they're quite embarrassed about their finances and how they don't keep track of them or how they spend, or sometimes when we feel ashamed, we don't want to look at something. That's what shame does, right? We don't want to look at it. We don't want to tell people. We don't want to share about it. And then by doing that, we don't look clearly at the situation, and then we don't manage it well, and then it gets worse. So let's not have any shame around money. And if we do, it's a great opportunity to release it. We have shame around money. We also have guilt around money. And the word guilt is very closely related to the word debt. And usually when they're first cousins, guilt and debt. Usually when we're in debt, we feel guilty. We owe someone money. It usually comes with guilt, or we owe somebody something. We feel guilty when we owe people things. So shame and guilt are really common feelings that we get around money. Never gotten along with money. Yeah. Companies creating pay cuts. You retired but feel abundant. Good. Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing. So let's go over the seven ways we kind of interact with money, the 7 types of relationships that we have with money. And the way I like to look at them is almost in relationship to the 7 energy centers or chakras that we work with. And if you haven't worked with the chakras in any way before, if you go into meditation school a few classes back, I did a meditation on introducing them. So you could do that one, come back and do this one again. So the first and most common way most people interact with money is survival. It's a need for survival. I need to make more money so I could pay the rent, so I could buy food, I could keep the lights on, I can get from here to work and back. Most people in the world, that's essentially their relationship to money, is in the vibration of survival. My parents grew up in Russia, and went through World War II. Everyone, grandparents went through World War II, and definitely scarce around money. To this day, every time my dad calls, the first question or questions he always asks is, "Do you have a warm winter coat?" Well, actually, he's Russian, so he's like, "Do you have a warm winter coat, David? Do you have enough money? Do you have food?" Because he grew up in survival. His whole consciousness was get enough just to survive. And so that's a hard thing to shake off. When my grandparents visited me in college, I took them to the food hall, to the whatever it's called, mess hall, and not mess hall, but you swipe your card and you can eat as much as you want, the cafeteria. And so I swiped for them. And my grandmother was literally putting apples into her purse and stealing napkins. And I was like, "Grandma, you don't need to do that. You can eat as much as you want." I swiped the card my parents bought me. Right? And even though that was true, that couldn't compute for her because she grew up starving. And so any opportunity there was to hoard a little bit more for later, she would take it. And she's like that to this day. When I go visit her in Florida, she'll have food in the fridge that is so expired and so old. I'm like, "Oh my Lord, do not eat that. Please do not eat that, Grandma." Uh, and I'm sure you all know people like that, or maybe you're like that in some way. And so most of humanity in relationship to money is in the energy of survival. And maybe sometimes someone pops out of it a little bit, but usually it's a very heavy energy to only be looking at the world through survival. And then they hear things like, "Just imagine it, that you're rich, and then more money will land." And people in survival look at that and they're like, "Screw you." You must have be born into money. That's not how it works. You have to work hard for your money. Every day you have to sweat, tears, and blood just to get enough money to pay the bills. That's what life is. That's how the consciousness of survival talks. So the idea that instead of working for your money, you can get your money to work for you is foreign to the person who just is in survival. The idea of investing maybe is kind of foreign. So we might call that almost like a first chakra energy, like kind of at the base of the spine is just need to survive. Okay. And that's there for 100% of people, but we don't have to just live there in a negative way. So that's the first one. The second one is emotional. So some people have a very emotional relationship to money. Anybody here not really know what's in your bank account and you spend based on how you feel? Yeah, I bet. We all do that on occasion. So it's like, oh, I need that. Really need is want, but you need that. And so there's this emotional relationship to money. Um, I think that's also incredibly common, and that's where marketers and advertisers and salespeople, that's where they get you. They find that want inside of you, and they hook you, right? This is going to make you feel so good. Once you buy this, you're going to feel so emotionally good. Um, so notice if even just as I'm talking, you might get feelings course through your body a little bit, or some awareness of how you relate to money in survival or in emotion. Another way that we relate to money is through self-image. So the amount of money I have equals how much I'm worth. Now that is extremely common as well, right? So if I'm poor, I'm not worth much. If I'm rich, I'm worth a lot. So people say, "What's your worth?" Like 10 million. Oh, really? That's your worth. That's your value, is the amount of money you have in your bank account. And so that is also very common. We absorb that kind of idea that we're worth how much we have in a bank, in some digital asset, that barely exists anymore on paper. That's our self-worth. That's what we're worth. That must mean we're either smart or we're stupid, or we have good karma or we have bad karma. And that's absolute nonsense to me. Sometimes life maybe wants you to be poor so you can learn some lessons. And maybe other times life wants you to be wealthy so you can learn other lessons. You can learn lessons from the entire range of from not having any money to having all the money in the world. And I've spent time with people who have all the money in the world, and sometimes they're miserable. And I've definitely spent a lot of time in the third world with people with no money, and they're incredibly fulfilled and happy. It's interesting to see, really interesting. So sometimes money can create isolation, which it does not always create happiness. So survival, emotional, and self-image. Okay, so those are the first three, and those are the three that probably the majority of planet Earth kind of vibrates in. The people on planet Earth are struggle with or learning about those three. And then as we kind of get up into the heart, we can call it heart-centered, a heart-centered relationship with money that's based on giving and receiving. That's kind of more open. And there are people in the world, even when they don't have money, they give. I've seen people who literally have $5 to their name in India or in other parts of Asia, give half of their entire net worth to somebody else one day, just knowing more will come back. Just giving out of the goodness of their hearts, and then somebody else comes when they need something and they receive it, and it's a beautiful thing to watch. um, People who hoard money and are selfish, that part of their heart maybe is closed, and so they maybe their heart is just closed and they have a hard time giving and or receiving. So another way we could have a relationship with money is a heart-centered relationship, or we can call it a giving and receiving relationship with money. And again, I'm sure you have aspects of all of these inside of you playing out. The next one is what I would call an intellectual relationship with money. So if you watch like CNBC or something, or the stock channel, and everyone is going, oh, the market's up, the market's down, the Federal Reserve needs to lower interest rates, and there's inflation, and all of that jazz. Um, that is an intellectual relationship with money, right? So somebody who can calculate, somebody who can think through money clearly, somebody who can understand maybe the financial system, the way it works, banking. Most people have no idea where money comes from. It's just kind of like, it's just, doesn't it come from my dad? um, where does money come from? It just exists. Most people don't know what reserve fractional banking is. So if you put for example, if you put $100 into the bank, that means the bank can now lend out $1,000, right? So maybe it's allowed to lend out 10 times as much as it has. And that's how money kind of moves through the system. So you can use that intellectual capacity to invest. So at an intellectual level of money, now instead of maybe just you working for money, money can work for you. And that's why a lot of times people who live in survival and or emotional energy levels of money hate people on Wall Street. They're like, oh, they're gross. They use their slick Harvard degrees to engineer financial instruments to ruin the economy for the rest of us and steal money. That is a two-dimensional way of thinking. Does that happen? Of course, it happens all the time, but that's not all it is. So much human progress has been made by humans collectively putting money together into certain piles, and then we take some of that money, for example, and we build a spaceship, or we use it to create new medicines. We use it to build bridges, right? There are so many things that we could do when we start bringing money together, and that brings us to the next relationship that we have with money, which is a visionary one. So somebody who understands the stock market, understands finances, they don't necessarily have a vision. They just might be good at making money or understanding money, right? They might be an economist, but they might not really have a vision. And so then when we take a step up, we can start to really have a vision with that money. So I have a friend who is very wealthy, and his vision is to take all the money he's made and solve global warming. I think that's beautiful. He has a very clear idea in his mind of how he wants to get together all of these different wealthy people and create a specific kind of fund to tackle a specific part of global warming. Or maybe a policymaker decides, if we had this much money, we could, help everybody over here in society, or make education cheaper over here, whatever it happens to be, help the poor, build spaceships. So you can have a visionary relationship with money. And then the last one is more of a spiritual relationship with money. And for this one, I want to read a quote from Lynn Twist, who wrote The Soul of Money that I just shared. Really love this quote from her in the book. And she says, money is like water. It can be a conduit for commitment, a currency of love. Money moving in the direction of our highest commitment nourishes our world and ourselves. What you appreciate appreciates. When you make a difference with what you have, it expands. Money carries our intention. If we use it with integrity, then it carries integrity forward. Know the flow. Take responsibility for the way your money moves through the world. Let your soul inform your money, and your money express your soul. I just wanted to read that because I definitely could not have expressed it as well. I love that. The idea that money can express our souls, right? So money is not good or bad in and of itself. If there were no humans around and there was $100 bill on the ground and aliens came down and looked at it and didn't know what it was, would that $100 bill be good or evil? No, right? It has the value that we give it, and it amplifies who we are, right? It amplifies who we are. So I just want to invite you, as I talk about our different kind of relationships that we can have with money, different levels of consciousness with those relationships with money. As I talk about that, maybe you get a sense of how you have been relating to money and where maybe you can relate to money a little bit better. So if you feel like you're stuck in an emotional place with money, then maybe it's time to release some shame or some guilt or some anxiety around money. If you're in survival, maybe it's time to be honest about that and make a real game plan and get help so you can come out of it. I have a friend who helps people get their finances straight for a living. That's what she does. She goes through their checkbook, their checking account and their expenses, and their income, and she sorts it all out with them and says, look, you're spending so much over here, you can't really afford that. If you did it this way and took out a low interest loan, you could pay that debt off. And she helps people restructure debt. And that's really cool. But sometimes we have a hard time asking for that help and shifting how we see the world. So when we're in an emotional layer or survival one, sometimes we also find ourselves in blame. We blame Wall Street, blame politicians, blame my stupid ass boss, right? Blame somebody for the reason I'm in the situation I'm in. When we raise our consciousness, we come out of being a victim, come out of blame, and we start to shift our energy with anything in life. But for tonight, in relationship to money, and I'll just share one more thing and we'll go into meditation. I just absolutely love this story. The motivational speaker, Tony Robbins, uh, when he was when he was a kid, his family had literally no money. They didn't have enough to buy food for Thanksgiving, and somebody left a turkey at his front door, rang the bell and ran off. So he didn't know who it was. And because of that giving, that incredible experience, he decided the next year he would give other families a turkey. And then the year after that, more families and more and more and more. And that actually led to him creating businesses and becoming a billionaire. And I think his foundation, he's fed over 100 or 200 million people um, since he started it, which is really cool. I've donated to that foundation. I can't remember the name of it right now. Maybe Feed America. I can email the link to everyone. It's beautiful. Really good group. And so, he could have sat there and been a victim and done nothing, but that giving inspired him. So let's see if we can start to shift our relationship a little bit with money tonight. Even if, things in the world seem like they're crumbling, from a survival perspective, if you watch the news, you go, oh, unemployment is soaring. There's no jobs. You look at the statistics and the macro of everything, right? Oh, and you match that energy. Just like you match the energy of the virus and all the fear. Oh my God. It's so easy to match the energy. But there was no better time in the last 20 years in America to make money than in 2008 when there was a financial crisis and the stock market completely tanked. If you were able to put something away then, it was a great opportunity to build something from the ground up. And so there are opportunities that arise if we're not lost in survival. If we go rise above it, then we start to see some of those opportunities. Uh, okay. So let's go ahead and close our eyes. Let's meditate for a few minutes here. And I'm going to really work you today, wherever you are. I don't want you to be laying on the couch or watching TV or doing something else while I'm talking. Really, I want you to close your eyes and really do the work here. Even if you have a lot of money, that doesn't matter. We're working on our relationship to money.